Welcome back, everyone, to SPAR with Brothers. I'm your host, Coach O today. On my right, I got my main man, Jay Blaze. How you feeling, Jay?
Oh, I feel great, man. If I was any better, I'd be two of me walking around here. So enough with the intro. I'm ready to get down with the info.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. On my far right, I got Castle King.
Que lo que? What's up, my peoples? Que lo que, mi gente? Some Spanish.
Okay. something.
And
No
as
translator.
always, we are missing our main man, T. Peeps, tonight. Was not able to make it, but I'm your host, Coach O. We're going to be talking about sports, politics, and religion
SPAR.
on a busy week. If you
roll.
guys like the
Got a
show, we
lot going.
appreciate all of our listeners and now our viewers. Subscribe
roll.
and like below and leave a comment on something that you do like.
We want to hear.
Getting off on, we're going to get off on a
Pause.
somber note today. Obviously, the world is in mourning of the passing of one Kobe Bean Bryant.
Yes.
He's affected so many people in so many different ways, both positive and negative. And so this week, I was personally shook. I know we all have talked about it before, but just, starting off, Castle King, just give us a little bit about how Kobe impacted you directly.
I mean, he was a great skilled athlete. He was phenomenal. I think he was a positive attribute for the game. He was one of the last, I think, legends in the aspect of the Mamba mentality, which is what he was about. So hopefully there was people out there that took, his mentality of their work ethic to the game. So his positive attributes to the game, he was phenomenal. I missed him in that aspect. He was very well. He was great.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. I mean, you talk about one of the greatest Lakers of all time. You talk about a sports franchise, and it's just been, incredibly outpouring. Jay Blaze, tell me what you think about Kobe and his passing.
I really think it was devastating, surprising. When you start a career with someone, we all started our career with Kobe, not telling our age. I actually started Jordan's career, but it's nobody else's business. You expect to kind of grow up with that person, monitor their life. You guys become parents around the same time. You guys get old together, and you're watching TV with maybe your children and your grandchildren and saying, hey, son or grandson, that's a great.
Right.
And we're not going to have that privilege. Like right now, we're able to look back and say Kareem was a great or Jordan or Julius Erving, but that's gone. And I think that's a missing piece. And it's going to also affect, and I know we're going to get into that a little later, but the aspect of what he was doing for women's sport was simply amazing. It's a big turnaround. Just to think of the challenges he went through with the allegation and of course, the charges being dropped, but the civil litigation, and from him to grow from that point. A young man, wasn't highly drafted 17, wasn't like he was number one, worked hard, but a young man to not only bounce back from that type of scenario, but become an advocate for women and women's sport and the forefront of it was truly amazing. And I think that Kobe Bryant managed to beat Michael Jordan or something. I know he always wanted to be Michael Jordan on the court, which I respect. But what I respect more about him is that he decided not to be Michael Jordan off the court. I think that's really amazing. And there's no shot at MJ. I love MJ. But Kobe Bryant was setting forth the template in which these young men in any sport can follow, be an asset, not a liability.
And rest in peace to the families that passed with him and his daughter, Gianna. So she was going to be the next legend in women's basketball. I think she was transcended.
I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. I mean, I feel you on that. I mean, one of the main things I think that hurt me the most, again, I can tell my age. I graduated in '96 along with Kobe. So I remember being a freshman in college at the same time that Kobe was with the Lakers.
Right.
And just imagining what my life would be parallel to him. So, having children, having young children, and then just have such a devastating end to his tragic career. Sad. I was actually to be honest, truth be told, I was never really the biggest Kobe fan. While his playing days, I thought he was great. I thought he was a little bit of a black hole when it came to it, when the ball got passed to him.
Pause.
But the reality was his play on the court, his determination was unmatched.
Thanks.
And he was relentless. Also on the defensive end. But I became a bigger Kobe fan post basketball.
Facts.
What he was able to do, he won an Oscar last year with his short film on Dear Basketball.
Yes.
He was exploring avenues that, most men of color don't aspire to post-playing career.
Facts.
And I think he was blazing a path for many athletes to see. And not to be too cliche, but to have it come to a sudden tragic end like that, maybe it's a bittersweet, but if his legacy is going to be immortal from here on out, I'm trying not to get emotional
Coach O,
thinking about it.
Let's think about this. He went out being a father. He's a legend.
Shout out to the real dads
millions. Shout out to the real dads. There's a lot of them out there that we're not getting credit, but that's another show another day. You got a guy that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. This guy gets up early Sunday morning, and he takes his daughter to basketball practice. Like, you have guys that's barely millionaires that don't take their kids to practice.
And taking people there, even the people that died, they were willing to take neighbors and
taking neighbors and
extend
everyone.
themselves to others.
The Altobello families, the Hausers. I mean, all of those families
Messaging
affected by this tragedy.
Yes.
I think the whole Southern California community and really the whole world, it resonated. I'm a father. I have a daughter. The first thing I did when I saw her after that was just hug her a little bit tighter, because you cannot be a human being with a heartbeat and not feel for that,
not at all.
Those families affected by that tragedy.
I agree.
And again, Jay Blaze mentioned on it, women's basketball. You saw UConn honor Gianna by pregame. With a seat on the bench. That was something that was amazing. So if you look at what Kobe was doing for women's basketball, I saw a report by Candace Parker. He was reaching out equally to female basketball players, He would
attend their games too. So.
Yeah, I mean, he was a big, hopefully, I don't want there to be another Kobe. I want Kobe to exist in his own spectrum, but I hope that there are other young athletes who are seeing the trail that he blazed and take the mantle and push it forward, because he was doing some great things.
I was looking for, with tribute. People were showing tribute. They're putting a lot of pictures and posts out there. I actually would like to see people not imitate his game, but imitate that passion that he has for the game.
Absolutely.
To have the Mamba mentality to take over and make sure that there's a team play and that you're pushing yourself, you're challenging yourself each day. So you don't have to look at these steroid abusers on there. So you can actually do it with a different mindset.
The right way.
That mindset.
The right way.
And I think his death as well was something that resonated with a lot of people because of his age, the children. And that's something that he transcended a couple of decades and different generations, that people hit home that it's a reality, that something can happen to you that way, and even with your children. So.
And I mean, people have compared his death to that recently of, say, Michael Jackson. These child stars that were in our homes from a young age, and we actually watched grow up into our eyes.
Right.
And I mean, Kobe, unfortunately, went through some dark times. There was the infidelity, there was the allegations from Denver, there was the planned divorce that they reconciled, the 2 children afterwards. Like I said, this second act, which, there's a generation that maybe not even got to see Kobe as a player. They just know him as this Mamba. And so I'm really sad for that whole community. I'm sad for the Laker Nation.
I think that made him relatable as well, too, because being that he went through those situations, let him know that you're human. You can go through things. You can come through adversities. You can come through different challenges and survive and risk all that. It's not always just cream on the top and that you're at the top of the icing, that you were a human being and that you can survive through that.
Yeah, definitely nobody's perfect.
And if you're one of the people that have chosen to honor Kobe, I would prefer him. I would recommend follow the second half of his life. Love your kids, embrace who they are, what they want to become, coach them, and do your very best. And not only that, but he was there for other people's children. There's children out there that also need father figures or maternal figures. Reach out, be that person that make a difference, and be consistent. Believe in others' dreams as well as your own. I think that's very important, that we are more than just a hashtag or a graffiti or wearing your number or not wearing a number anymore. But when you say you want to honor this person, and I'm not making them a god, just if someone would ask you, but if you want to honor them, then do something that brings honor to their name and make it a continuum.
Yeah.
Let not this time next year, we're not thinking about something else different. Let this be a wake-up call for those who are not being the best parent they can be, or not being the best husband they can be, or not being the best brother or friend. Let that be a wake-up call that life is short. Love hard.
Yeah. Indeed.
At all times.
Indeed. No. And you know, the hashtag girls dad, this is a call to men to step up to be fathers out there, because you know, there's
Love your
no better
children. Time is
relationship
short.
between a father and a daughter.
Correct.
To show her how a man should treat her going down the road. So
Facts.
Hashtag RIP Kobe and the families that lost.
Absolutely. So turning into this weekend, we do have the Super Bowl.
A Super Bowl
coming up. And so, you know, as you guys know, the 49ers are traveling down to Miami. So they're coming all the way across the country. They've been here for a week now.
That's right.
Versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's right.
I like to say my Kansas City Chiefs.
Boo.
And so, you know, looking at the game, there's going to be some great matchups. There's going to be some legacies on the line. You know, we talk about, you know, leaving off Kobe, what legacies. You were looking at the start of a career of a young man, Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
We've seen him as a child on the sidelines as a bat boy for his dad so he's another second generation athlete who's quickly risen to the mantle of his sport. So we could be looking at the beginning of a Tom Brady-esque career.
Right.
That being said, Castle King, what are the matchups you're looking forward to the most in this weekend's Super Bowl?
I'm thinking it's going to be the defense is going to be the key factor on here. I think the offense is going to play a key on there. The matchup that I think to watch, or who I think I'm going to low-key MVP is going to be Bosa. That's going to be who I'm calling out.
Okay.
A little suspect on there. I think it's going to be 28-21. 49ers are going to take the win.
Wow.
I think it's going to write that down. 28-21.
28-21,
Okay.
49ers.
That's what we're doing?
Keeping in my little
I'm just
blue
going to
book
call
here.
it out ahead of time. It should be almost a no-brainer, but it's going to be a very competition.
Wow.
It's going to be a good competition, but Bosa's going to be a low-key MVP.
Now, I should mention at this time, we do have a bet. King Peeps and I are pro
Shout
KC.
out King Peeps.
San Francisco has these two gentlemen. I use that word
I did pick
generously.
KC. I did
generously,
pick
call you
KC for the win
gentlemen.
the last time.
I'll call you
Gentlemen shaming us.
but I use that word generously of gentlemen. But these two gentlemen have chosen the San
gentlemen
Francisco
shame.
49ers.
That's
Now,
right.
the loser of that will have to cook barbecue for the
That's
others, which I do like a brisket. I do like it smoked.
We make what
around
we
There's no
want.
need for even
8 to 12 hours. So
We make what we want.
Get some wood pellets. Get ready because
Listen,
KC's
your chicken
taking
today
that one.
was presentable, but I wanted a little more crispy.
All right, Jay Blaze, what you got on which matchup are you looking forward to the most?
Well, it's interesting because Patrick Mahomes plays for the Chiefs, and his dad, didn't he play for the Braves?
I think he played a couple. He was a journeyman. He played in Boston. He played a few places.
Played a couple
in the
places.
Braves as well.
Well, the matchup I'm looking for is not the obvious one. I'm looking at the linebackers from the 49ers. And I'm looking at the linebacker core
that defense
against the Chiefs. And I think who's gonna give it the plan? I'm watching this. It's gonna be one thing I want to do is give a shout out to Raheem Mostert
Okay.
from New Smyrna from
Beach.
Florida.
Smyrna.
Representing Florida.
Represent.
He's home.
Flow,
I'm
flow
looking out for
grown.
him to
Flow
run
grown.
I'm looking at track star. I'm looking for him to run amok. But I'm willing to say these two people either going to make a play for the good of the 49ers. It's going to either be Patrick Mahomes or Tyrann Mathieu. If you watch enough tape all the way back from college.
The Honey Badger?
The Honey Badger. I love him. He has great instincts. He watched a lot of film.
Honey Badger don't care.
Right. He doesn't care. But one thing he will do is he will go for the big play.
Okay.
And this is Super Bowl. Points will be at a premium. It'll be the Super Bowl. Points are at a premium. And I feel like he's going to make the mistake of the game that's going to get the 49ers the victory, 23-20. It's going to be low scoring. I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line is physical enough. I watched the 49ers at least 4 times this year. They're very disciplined. It's going to be very important for Joey Bosa to maintain the edge and the edge rushers to keep, I know this sounds crazy, keep Patrick Mahomes in the pocket.
Can't do it.
Because
I'm calling 3 sacks.
They're gonna keep him in. They're
3
gonna
sacks,
keep him in the
Bosa.
pocket. They're gonna keep him in the pocket. They're gonna make him make plays. They're gonna play up on the receivers. They're gonna play multiple coverages. Andy Reid, I just see you doing the same thing you did with the Eagles versus
Oh, come on, man.
the Patriots in the
come
Super
on,
Bowl.
man.
I just see you coming up short.
Come on.
You
Okay.
don't. The only place you don't come up short Andy Reeves at the dinner table.
What's your
But I
thoughts
see you.
what's your thoughts
I'm
on
taking
that,
shots.
Coach?
You go, okay.
I'm
well,
taking
what you
shots.
thinking,
I got the
Coach?
49ers 23-20.
What you got on that, Coach?
Okay.
What you got? What you talking?
I am taking this game in the opposite direction.
Of course you are.
apparently.
Tell us why.
The matchup I'm actually looking forward to, the matchup that I'm banking on is the tight end matchup. You're having actually two of the best tight ends in the game.
That's a good.
So you have that safety valve. I go back to the days of Dallas when they had Jay Novacek, Moose Johnson.
That's right.
And that flexibility. You talk about Mark Rivaro. If you look at the tight ends throughout the history, they've always been the difference maker in the Super Bowl.
So you're going the opposite of me because I picked linebackers, and the linebackers are athletic enough.
Those matchups, but if you
Can
look
Mahomes-
at Kelsey and Kittles, now
Mahomes gonna have to struggle in
I
that
do
pocket. He's
believe
gonna
is a
struggle in that
better
pocket.
is a better
overall line,
tight end.
Overall,
He has had the past 2 seasons. He's been a monster.
facts.
But again, I'm not going against my KC. I think, unfortunately, what happens, KC is going to get up early on the 49ers. They're not going to be able to catch up. Jimmy Garoppolo has passed, 28 times the entire playoff run?
Facts.
So he's I hope that they have a game plan, but we don't know how he's going to react.
They're more well
He's
balanced.
He's not. We don't know if he's going to react.
Exactly.
He's watched
They got a
Tom Brady
running
for too
game.
long.
They got a
So
passing game.
Coach O just
They're
told
more of
me.
a complete
Oh,
team.
I'm sorry.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
finish?
Go ahead.
Okay,
Go
so
for it.
I do have the 49 or the San Francisco at 48. And the
Jeez.
49ers at 41. I think they're going to scorch them. I think they're going
What?
to put up 21 in the first quarter. And from there on out,
Really?
yeah, I have Patrick Mahomes with 5 touchdowns.
So I have 2 things.
5 touchdowns.
I got 2
5
things.
touchdowns.
I got 2 things to say. Number one, what makes you think they're gonna get up early when they got in their last 2 games? They started out behind. They started slow.
I don't think they're going to let that happen.
All right. Number 2, more importantly, and I just think this is interesting for me to ask you. It's like, what makes you think that the 49ers are going to give up 49 points?
A couple things. I don't think they've seen an offense this dynamic, and I don't think the NFL has a passer with the qualities that Patrick Mahomes has. He can make passes. He can fit balls into windows that no one else can do in the league.
True.
So because of that, I think that the
With teams with bad
secondary is
defense.
not really going to be ready for it. Then again, when you get down, you look at the scoreboard, you see, oh my gosh, it's 21-0 with 4 minutes left in the first quarter. I'm sorry, panic starts to set in. We've seen that happen before.
Facts.
I think
And
the panic's
so-
going to be on KFC.
And
side.
so I'm sorry, but I think on Kansas City, I think the sting of last year losing to the AFC Championship, being so close to it, they're not going to stop. They're going to put the pedal to the metal. They're going to come out aggressive.
Yes.
Look for some
Of
big
course.
plays early.
Of course.
And again, you cannot hand the ball to Rasheed Mostert and expect him to carry the ball 25 times.
You can.
and expect to win the game.
But
Not
here's
against that
something
defense.
you mentioned something very well. Actually, they got a middle of the road defense, 17th. But you mentioned something very important, and that's that the Chiefs does not have any real tape on what the passing game would look like if the 49ers came out opening up with passes. There's been games that Jimmy Garoppolo won this year, Jimmy G, with passing the ball. We threw for almost 400 yards. What is that going to look like? All of these different run designs, everything from jet sweep to power to traps. And then one of the things that you're underestimating is who's Kyle Shanahan's dad. They used to call him the rat because he kind of like a rat back in the day. Mike Shanahan. Does he have any Super Bowl experience? Yes. Does he know how to win? Yes.
Chop
Is he
blocks?
smart? Yeah. Hey, a win is a win.
A little dirty, but little chop blocks.
Secondly, I'm gonna finish with this. Jimmy G may have not been a starter, but he knows what it's like to go to the Super Bowl back to back. He knows what preparation looks like. He knows what rest looks like. He knows what habits
He's
look like.
been to the big
These are
games.
the little nuances that I've been kind of mulling over because I like Patrick Mahomes. But in big games, he starts slow.
Okay.
And you get behind with this team, and they're just more powerful.
And with that
They have
defense that they got, because 49ers are going to put pressure on him. I don't think he's going to
He's
see
never
the pressure.
seen
He's
this.
never seen this type
He's
of
never
pressure.
seen
He's
this.
going to have
Be
to
a
be able
blowout.
to be accurate out the pocket.
gonna be a
Can we
blowout.
He's going to have to be able to
push-ups on
get
this
rid. He's
too?
going to have to get rid of that ball.
I'll
in
put
the 3
push-ups
seconds.
on.
How about two?
You got-
How about 2 push-ups on each point?
Okay.
That the team win by.
Okay.
So if it's a blowout,
So if they score as much
it's
as
a
you
blowout,
got, you're
y'all
talking
need to
about
do some
100.
stretching.
if
2
it's
points.
if it's 50-20, 49ers, then you owe us 60 push-ups.
Okay.
I'm just saying
we'll
hypothetically.
See. We'll see how it goes.
All right.
All right. Well, hey, tell us your Super Bowl comments. Let
What
us
do you
know what
guys
you guys
think?
think about the games coming up.
Tell us what you think
and,
in the comment section.
Again, thanks for joining in.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Castle King. We're jumping on to our second segment here.
Say a word.
We're going to be talking about politics. Ooh, spooky combo.
Not suitable for work. Not
All right.
safe. Not
So we're going to be
safe.
talking about identity politics. Does it play a role in how we make our selections and elections? So we're going to be talking about race. So does it take effect in what we do and how we make our choices in politics?
Yep.
What do you guys think about that?
Well,
What do you think, Johnny?
let me just leap into this as a black man.
Jay
Psych, that's a
Blaze?
joke.
Ah,
That's a joke. Jay Blaze in the hood.
Blaze in his out.
I am 100% against identity politics. I think it's all a sham. And it's interesting.
Not shocking.
Of course, it's not shocking, but I just think it's interesting that some of the best leaders always talked about unity. MLK, the person we just celebrated not even a month ago, said, hey, we need to judge people by the content of their hearts. For those who are believers, we looked in the Bible, we talk about unity. We talk about the value of talking about common goals. A couple things identity politics does for us. Number one, it makes us victims mentally because you're breaking people down to, it's a woman, or you're a black person, or you a letter person. I'm sorry, I'm not saying all the letters. I apologize. You're a letter person, or you're this or you're that. So what it does is now it makes us all victims. Once we become a victim, we also become divisive because you got to think about it. If I'm just, for example, if I isolate you as a black man, and we just talking about one of the things, and I know it's funny, but if I isolate you as, white people, eventually people who are white, who are not racist will begin to automatically, arbitrarily go, hey, this guy's just talking noise because I know I'm not, and I'm tired of being called racist. We're not talking about the current president now. We're talking about something else differently. The next thing we talk about in identity politics is fear. It's designed for giving people the victim's mentality. It's actually designed for division. It's designed to create fear. It's also designed to make us single issue voters. We all mentioned something in the last segment. We all fathers. What do fathers want? Fathers want the best for their children. They want access to make money for them. They want to put them in a nice neighborhood. We all want the same thing. But when we do identity politics, we turn into, hey, well, I got to take the course of action of a woman. I got to take the course of action as a person that has different sexual preferences. I got to take the course of action of a black man. I got to take this course of action. And we become single issue voters. Simmer down, brethren. It's almost soon time for you to talk. Also, there is no advancement in place. Why is there no advancement in place? Because as a politician, I'm going to run on the fact that I'm going to fight for the rights that you have already, not for the rights that you are guaranteed as a citizen of the United States. Some of the things people talk about, hey, we're going to fight for the right to get you treated normally by the police officer. That's my right. We're going to fight for the rights for you to have a good that's my right. You're not looking to advancing, so people are completely happy with, hey, they're just going to make sure nothing else get taken away from me. So what it does, it actually makes people not focus on the advancement that every American citizen deserves. It makes them focus on, I just hope they don't take this from me or take that from me. Also, it's a failing strategy because it causes hate. It causes hate. It's so many things that we have in common that we can work on and promote. And this is any form of identity politics. I'll do both sides. Where people go, hey, if you do this, then on the opposite side, well, then the black people or the illegal immigrants are going to take your jobs. That's identity politics. You're driving any type of, I'm not saying Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, Green Party. Anytime you get down into individual identities as people, when you see me, you can't see my intellect, you can't see my character, you can't see my belief. Don't look at me as a black man. I know you have no choice unless we're doing that. I can choose whatever gender and whatever person I am. Don't look at me as that. Look at me as an individual that wants the best for his family, and look at the next person and find out what is important for them. But when you put me, and I'm sorry, I think I went a little longer. I think Coach was ready to talk. When you put people in the box, then they become single issue voters.
So if I understand you correct, I'm hearing that you think that it's used as a tool for division, to dividing the people rather than coming in a different aspect of just focusing on the politics. So you think it's a divisive tool
Yes.
as far as the identity
So
of
we
politics.
put all the minorities in one area, and then we can garner their votes, and we can put all the people that's rich in this aspect and garner their votes. So it's not something that I'm saying that one particular party does.
Right.
I am against every political party because I believe every political party does it in one way or another, and I'm completely against identity politics because at the end of the day, we all lose with that. Let's find common goals and let's work together to achieve them and attain them.
Well said. I like your points where you got there. Coach O, it looks like you've been about to boil over, so the teapot is definitely boiling. So whenever you're ready to blow some steam out, Pauls, go for that. What are your feelings on that?
Wow. Well, I guess the initial thing is if you want to, I understand what you're attempting to say, and that would be great in a utopian society. In these United States of America,
Yes.
with the history that has been established, that is not possible. We have to identify the source at the root. And I use a simple example. We've all heard that, after Obama, America's post-racial. That's a farce, okay?
Okay.
I mean, just yesterday in the impeachment trial, they set a dog whistle out to their constituency addressing the article written about the 1619 Project.
So that's identity politics.
It's identity politics because it's still not a level playing field. And for you to actually sit up here and believe that it is fine. Now, guess what? We're fortunate.
Can you use identity politics to level off? I'm just trying to understand
so
what you're saying.
We're fortunate. I'm very fortunate. I grew up in a great home
Yes.
with great parents. I know we all came from great backgrounds and we were able to achieve. We are the exception, not the rule. The reality is most people from minority communities do not have positive role models because of the systemic racism that has existed in this country since 1619.
Okay.
Since the first dark-colored skins arrived on this piece of land that was originally inhabited by indigenous people, right?
Yes.
There has been an agenda to eliminate and exterminate them, okay? Or control them. That has continued through slavery, through Jim Crow, through civil rights and voting rights acts. We are still fighting for voting rights act in the state of North Carolina. They're still fighting for voting rights in the state of Georgia, right? This is 50 years since past Martin Luther King, and we're still having to fight for the rights for people to get out and vote. Now, it is of no ideology, and I know what you're going to say. Oh well,
carry on.
Carry on. Keep going. Go ahead.
The reality is this:
I'm not going to interrupt.
Unfortunately, when you still have tiki torch boys walking through the streets of Charlottesville saying that Jews will not replace us, blood and soil, which is a Nazi chant. When you still have those characters, and then you have number 45 up there saying, well, I think there's good people on both sides. You still have dog whistles coming from the very top, alerting his constituency that guess what? I'm back in charge. Okay. Now I did get some stats. There's been an uptick of 17% of hate crimes just in the past 2 years. Okay. So to say that identity politics is not an issue is very much so an issue. Unfortunately,
I said it's an issue.
Unfortunately, what does happen is because people do believe we're post-racial. Oh, we elected Obama, so now everything must be good. They think that anytime you say, hey, I don't feel comfortable with that statement that you made, they say, oh, you're trying to, everything is racist to you. Well, yeah, everything is kind of racist to me in a lot of ways. So yeah, I do believe that identity politics needs to be an issue. I do believe we need to address systemic racism from its very root, understand exactly what redlining does, how that affects communities of color, understanding what happened to Black Wall Street in Tulsa, understand when people's homes were taken from them in Chicago, that all of that equity was lost. And the Black community has been robbed year after year, decade after decade, generation after generation in this country that has left them far behind. We are just now seeing the positive effects of what happens when a generation had access to education, higher jobs, and you expect, oh, pick yourself up by your own bootstraps? Come on, man.
Well, first of all, he said some interesting stuff that was
what do you got to say
kind of
about
wrong.
That,
so
Jay Blaze?
Let's go back. It seems like you agree with me that identity politics is negative. And if we're going to really discuss this and talk about that, I know a certain person that ran for president in 2016 that said she had hot sauce in her purse. Like, that's how you're going to respect me? You're going to throw a Jay-Z and a Beyonce concert because you feel like I'm black and that's good enough. Every person in this room actually have things that are important to them, their family, and their children. Secondly, yes, there was an uptick. Also, there was a much increased uptick on people who actually reported those numbers. Thirdly, to the point which most people don't understand, if you go back and you know what I always challenge people to do? I challenge them to do the YouTube test. Because there is a test that you can easily do. I want you to go back and just Google any videos from the 50s, 60s, 70s, maybe early to mid 80s. And you got people of color speaking proper English, well-educated, performing at a high level. You do. As a matter of fact, when they desegregated the schools, they found that the black kids were performing higher than the white kids. So it's not that it took a long time. Black Wall Street happened post-slavery. And then when all the stuff you talked about, everything from redlining to the KKK to fighting for the right to vote, let's be honest, I've yet to find a person of color that's 18 or older without an ID. That's what I mean. That's a perfect. Do you know a person of color that does not have a form of photo ID? All right. So people are going off with this narrative. Now, the young lady, the governor, the one that was running for governor, she lost fair and square. She lost fair and square. So when people go, oh, we have voted, no, the fact that you're asking people to have an ID, I need an ID to get a job. I need the ID to cash a check. I need an ID to buy alcohol. And all of a sudden, these black people allegedly don't have IDs. I mean, it's the most, but it's an identity. This is a perfect example of identity politics. They're trying to stop black people from voting.
They are.
And I could
the original party that stopped black people, that put dogs on them, that put water hoses on them, are Democrats. Those are people that vote and fought.
No, those are Dixiecrats.
No, they're not Dixiecrats. If you go back and look at them right now, they went down as Democrats. We'll have this argument
you guys are
another
both in
time.
agreement that identity politics
is negative.
Is a negative.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand what we're disagreeing on.
So you don't think that it's going to come down? You don't think that it comes down to the people themselves and actually come down and vote to it?
Hang on. I think if you turn a blind eye to identity politics and think that everything is hunky dory in this country, you are not extremely naive.
So let's agree on that. So let's say we do agree that identity, which we all agree that it's something negative. What do you think would be a tool, or what can we go from here to make it something positive? Is it not the power of the people in a sense that the unity? That's where the march of Dr. King was on there, where there was all minorities, all people together. Where I think it should be as far as classes. We're talking about politicians and not politics on there.
Right.
So we have to get ourselves up to that point.
Correct. We have to demand deliverables. There's no fine.
Now, do you think that would be through either classes, from poverty, from poor, middle class, and all the way up, rather than identity or race?
We need to be addressed where the issue is. The issue, and of course, racism exists and profiling exists. My son was profiled less than a week ago. So I can say that in a store that I would patron almost every other day, and he patrons almost every other day. We're not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying that you're saying, hey, that you're being disenfranchised because you're black, and vote for me with no plan is masturbation. It make you feel good, but there's no results. Now, I watched every single Democratic debate. I want results. I watch every single Democratic debate. They're the people that use, and both parties use it, but specifically towards people who have different ideas of what sexual preference they are, people of color, illegal immigrants. I haven't seen one single person come forth with a plan to help blacks in the inner city and Latinos in the inner city.
Which I was interjecting on that as well, because not one has even spoken about about Latinos in general. They've all denied speaking.
We just victims.
And we are 13% of the vote. Latinos are 13%.
I mean,
higher.
If we could look at what's happening in Puerto Rico, right, and say how that is just not even on the back page of the news. Those are American citizens suffering through earthquakes, and they
have not even got a disaster.
I haven't seen one Red Cross commercial for that.
They haven't signed a bill of disaster.
We got people sending money to Australia and we got our own American citizens
We
suffering.
agree.
Why? Because they're brown people, and the reality
agree
is
on that.
nobody cares.
So talking about them being brown people, is that a resolution, or is that a way to get the brown people together to vote for you? Talking about the sparing, how black people are inspired.
I mean, I'm
are
disappointed in the Democratic
across the
portion
board
of it, because the Democrats, I
right.
think that just because the president currently in charge, just because he said to build a wall or something negative, that they got a landslide that they don't have to address.
They're not
issues.
getting them.
And that's where
They're not getting the Hispanic vote. I'm
as
sorry.
people. I agree with you. I
They're
mean,
not getting it.
they haven't even addressed any issues. I
don't.
haven't heard anything at all. They haven't been to any of the town halls.
Well,
answer any of the questions that the parties have sent out.
There's,
to them.
I think over 400 bills sitting on Moscow Mitch's desk right now. So the reality is that the bills that they are trying to push forward, Could
you give us some example of some bills?
It's not just minorities of communities of color.
Anybody.
These
I'm just
bills
talking
are
anybody.
trying to help everyone. But the
Just
reality
anybody.
is
it should be
listen,
by classes,
my
poor,
guy,
middle class,
I'm gonna
all colors.
I'm gonna go with my guy, right?
Yang Gang, who's your guy? I mean, the people can't read your mind.
Is trying to push forward an agenda that's going to lift up all people, right? Regardless
Right.
of race, class, or color.
Yes, there's no identity there.
In there, especially in the Green New Deal, that gives
Oh my gosh.
special opportunities to communities that have been historically disenfranchised.
We got that already. It was an executive order signed already for $100 billion in December, I believe, of 2018 or 2000. I think it's 2018 December. There was a bill, executive order already signed by the president for $100 billion. What is he doing? That's nothing new.
And who do you think those contracts are going to?
It's going to get jobs and resources in those
But are they-
disenfranchised communities.
Are they life-changing jobs? Anyone can get a job that pays them $10
Anything
an hour.
better than me having to hustle is a life-changing job.
You know, the unemployment is so low, but yet we still have people having to work 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. No one can afford to live anymore
Could some of that
because
be
the rent
spending?
is too high
Could
because the people who own the properties are not selling them to people of color. You know this, and we've talked about
most
this, that
people-
most minorities have lost their ownership within the past 50 years.
Why?
Those numbers are much lower because when the rent got too high, they could not afford to buy.
What
because the
areas is
banks
this happening
foreclosed
in?
on them.
What areas is this happening in? This
slums.
it's very
On
important.
inner cities, you want to
Inner
look at
city.
Latinos.
you wanna
Okay,
look at
what specific
Latinos are
parties?
increased.
Hold on, because we getting somewhere. What specific parties are ahead of those inner cities where black people are losing their houses and jobs? Because we keep
Gentrification?
gentrification. What political parties are typically ahead of state in there? We getting somewhere, but these are the same people that cause me victim, and then they stay victimizing me. I'm a victim. Hey, you should feel upset because I am disenfranchised. I'm going to vote against this guy. Stop. I mean, people at the end of the day,
so-
we need to vote. Like you said earlier, Yang Gang has a plan to help everybody.
Correct.
Right. So obviously we know there's always going to be issues. And we'll talk about this another time, another place. How do you climb your own way out? And there's a lot of things that people have to do. Like, by the way, let your money last more than 8 hours in your neighborhood. Maybe one of the ways
I agree.
that you can build your neighborhood. But
I think
that's
identify
another-
politics. We need to identify with ourselves
Facts.
and get ourselves
Facts.
and check ourselves
Unite-
Again.
and get to the polls. We got to
Again,
get
I would-
ourselves
I
out
would-
there
I would-
and make the right vote.
I
As
would
a
love to do
class
that.
of people, not a color, not a race. As a class of
As a
people.
class
the
of people.
poor,
Thank
the
you.
middle class as a class. We're
Facts.
all brown. Some are lighter brown. Some are
Facts.
more beige than
Yeah,
brown.
see it there?
We're all white, black. We're
There
all
you
the
go.
same. It's a class of people. If you're in the same neighborhood, we're all poor. If you're in the same neighborhood, you're middle class. It's you got to get each other and get out there and vote.
It's been proven that 2 individuals with the same credentials, but with different names. So when Tyrone Smith submits an application for a job and William Smith submits an application for a job, William is going to get called 6 more times than
We're not
Tyrone
debating
does.
that. Where's the policy to fix that?
When you guys,
Where's the policy?
You have to identify and you have to address the system.
Where's the
from its
policy?
core-
Talking
from
about
its
it, never get
core.
anything done. Oh, well, you know what
Look at-
happened? I need to lose weight.
You-
well,
you
me
agree.
talking about me needing to lose
But
weight.
some of the
doesn't change.
some of the bootstraps up you're talking about is whether you're gonna invest the right, save the right money, and start your own business, invest in the black banks or other banks that you're gonna do to invest into your
And
community.
how about dad staying at home? How about that?
Keep
how about-
the father in the home. Avoid.
That's
if
it. How
takes,
about-
stop smoking or whatever it takes to stop getting to make sure there's
How
nothing
about
that you're gonna be
in
able
the
to get arrested
50s
in
and
any
the 60s,
class.
black people, middle class is stronger than white middle class. So we have to redress
Because
the
that's
whole.
as far as they
we
could
need
go.
we have to redress
That's
the
as
whole
far
thing.
as they could go.
Something happened where fathers start leaving homes, and that's a real big issue.
It's called the Iran-Contra scandal and all.
Actually,
all
it's
the
called
drugs they pumped
the
Accountability,
welfare thing, but you have to
all
be
the
accountable.
drugs they pumped
You
into
have to,
the
yeah.
inner cities.
Somebody held them down to put drugs in their hand to sell, or put drugs in their body to take. That's
Okay.
what they did.
Okay,
It's
well-
always that's what I'm saying. That's
But
a
there's
victim
accountability.
mentality.
There's accountability. At some point, it's going
Be
to
a
come down
man.
to some kind of accountability.
Be a
We
man.
know that the struggle's there. We know that the devil's out there. We know the poisons are laws. There's more against us than others. That's a fact. That is
But
a fact. But at some point, you got to be able to persevere, whether it's small steps at a time. Not saying that we can't, but we have to start taking some accountability. And I'm not talking about changing the law. We got to address ourselves to get it. And I'm not saying in general that it's because of us. It's never that. But you still got to make some kind of moves to.
you got to stop being victims. Number one,
You got to empower
you
yourself.
got to
somehow.
stop.
Okay.
How do you?
Okay.
How do you? Let me ask you a question then.
Sure.
And you don't have to answer because I'm not the moderator. But how do you look to your oppressor for the answer?
You don't look for them to the answer.
Correct.
Right.
So we have to
There you
take
go. You
accountability
feel like
for
they're your
ourselves.
oppressor. Why are you looking to them for answers?
I'm not looking.
You find it house by house.
Make your own just
With our-
businesses. Hire
I'm
your
sorry.
own.
No, okay. So within our community, but we don't sit there and turn a blind eye to it and say it doesn't
There's no
exist.
blind eye. We've been
I didn't
dealing with
say it
this
doesn't
for,
exist.
For how long have we been dealing with? Since the
Did I ever
50s?
did I ever- did I ever
we've been
say it
dealing with
doesn't
for
exist?
half a century.
Did I ever say it doesn't exist?
No, we're
I
all
said,
agreeing that it's
I
out there.
am looking for solutions, not for reminders. I don't need somebody to tell me every day that I'm fat or that I need to work out.
And
I
that's what the
need
identity politics is.
I've gained weight, people. I gained weight. I don't need
That's
people
what I'm
to
here
tell
for.
me that. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't need someone to tell me that. What I need is action. I need to start eating better. I need to make a conscious decision to work
Absolutely.
out. I need to make a conscious decision to put the
Even
right
though they
things in my
took away the
body.
gyms, even though they took away the things from you,
You
even though they're putting
still-
you in a different, you still got to do
still-
something. You got to make a move.
We're gonna talk about down the road,
Access.
and this is not
Access.
a teaser. That's right.
It-
I don't
it
want
is.
equality.
But
I
you
want
can
access.
create your access
But
too.
that-
You can
that
create your
access-
access. You can create your black
We're
wealth.
getting off
You can
topic
create your
because
minor
we're gonna
wealth.
talk about that. I'll
Identity
take,
politics is a thing.
and this is the biggest misnomer. Number one, the March on Washington, Martin Luther King actually wanted to talk about jobs. When he was murdered,
It was
assassinated, he was going to march for jobs.
Right.
With the listen,
sanitation
the
and
reality is, you
non-benefits.
understand, with financial freedom and access, I don't need to ask you for a seat at your table. I can buy mine.
Okay.
That's what we
Absolutely.
were. But believe it or not, and we're not going to go into it. That's what we were doing through segregation. That's why you had the Black Wall
I think,
Street.
I think
all that.
women make what? Is it 67 cents on the dollar compared to men? I think
There's
women
oth-
of color
there's
make, I think,
other
even
reasons
less than
behind that.
So I mean, but you have to realize that there are, again, systemic
There,
practices in place
but you,
that limit.
Coach O, you
we
have
have to
look deeper
start
than
at
that.
our household.
You gotta
we
look
have to
deeper than
start
that.
at our
There are
household. We gotta
jobs-
keep our household and family members in the household.
There
and
are
start from
jobs
there.
that men have a proclivity to that are higher paying. There are not a lot of women out there trying to be engineers. They're not. But you
why
know
is
what?
that?
Why aren't you fighting for
We'll talk
men
about
to
it.
be school teachers? We'll talk about this another time.
We're gonna
Like
talk
That's
about
actually
that
the
next.
next
80 to
topic.
90% of the school teachers are women. Why aren't you fighting against that? They are disenfranchising men. There's no testosterone in the school. There's
Actually,
no
there's-
masculinity.
A high demand for male teachers.
Really, why aren't they getting hired?
It's just not a field that most men go into.
Okay, you,
So
just,
how-
you
how-
just answered your own question.
So let's
why
get this
there's
back
a
to
disparity
identity
amount
and
of
politics.
pay.
How is this in
Thank you.
relation? Let's wrap this up on close up on what you think this identity politics is for you, Coach O.
Again, I think it has to be an issue that is understood from its genesis and understood from the origins of this country, how identity politics has shaped every decision that this country has made, from the Declaration of Independence through the 2016 election.
So does
And-
identity politics hurt us in how we vote and how we go out as people to vote?
I think identity politics disenfranchises a large group of the population that does not understand its ramifications.
Okay, and Jay Blaze, what do you think about identity politics and the closest?
I don't like it. It's divisive. It makes victims out of people. It gets votes, not results, because we're talking how many years later. And if you look at it, we own the same black people. This is so about black people. We own the same amount of land we did, actually a little less than after slavery. Like, what's going on? So people are talking more and more about identity, and this is going on and that's going on. It's just to get a vote. It's not to get results. And I'm all about results.
I can agree.
And I will vote for whoever I want to vote for, period.
And identity politics that I see it on there, it's just as Jay Blaze was saying, it's to get a vote. If you look at what happens after the vote's cast, after the person's elected, that are those things that you wanted that politician to handle, have they been taken care of? Have they addressed those issues? And it's typically no. So you got to identify with yourself, your household, who you are
Facts.
as in the culture that you are, and you have to make that difference. Whether
Facts.
it's going out there to vote, which should be the case.
That's
and
right.
if not, you take and manage and handle your own wealth, create your own wealth, create your
Facts.
opportunities, and then go from there and branch out and help your community in all colors.
Facts.
And hope you don't get Skittles or nice tea at the
Oh,
shop.
I'll take the
It
exception.
may
and make
happen.
it
It
a
may
rule.
happen, but you don't let that be the defining factor of who you are, who your people are, and you don't let that define you.
So I just vote for people because of black. I guess that makes sense.
Vote for your politics, not for the politician.
Well. Welcome back, guys.
Here we are.
It's time to get real serious. We got a topic here that's going to maybe push
My
somebody's buttons. We're into the religion portion.
Yes, sir.
Everybody talking about heaven ain't going. So let's get it started. We have a question for the panel and for you that are listening out to you. Thank you for joining us. Put your comments down below, subscribe, and give us some feedback. Tell what you like, love, or can't stand us. But I got a question for you guys. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
You ready to just get ill with this? None personal, all gospel. So the question is toxic masculinity prevalent in the Bible? And I don't care if it's the King James, I don't care if it's the NIV or what we talking. We're going to start with Coach O. Coach O, what do you think?
Masculinity.
Is
Okay.
toxic masculinity prevalent in the Bible? And if so, how and why do you think that?
Well, first, I definitely want to say yes. And I feel as though in today's day and age, you know, in the middle of the Me Too movement, that word gets thrown around a lot.
Okay.
Toxic masculinity. And it almost causes a pullback from most men. Well, hey, that's not me. And because you're not out there doing something horrible to women, you feel that your actions don't have negative repercussions on the next generation of women.
Okay.
So, you know, for this example, you know, one of the things, and full disclosure, one of the things that has always bothered me in just reading through the Bible, and I'm going through a whole year, you know, through the Bible again this year, is the story of Dinah and how she gets overlooked when we always talk about, the 12 tribes of Israel, the 144,000 from the 12 tribes, all these apocalyptic Zionistic ideologies that come from the 12 tribes of Israel, the 13th sister gets left off the books, right?
Okay.
And so just from that standpoint, it has always bothered me that we don't pay more attention to these stories, that we don't use these opportunities to build up women throughout these biblical stories that we were all taught as kids.
Okay.
You know, Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, right? You're all taught all these magical stories of how God was
Technicolor,
masterful
really?
and
Wow.
crafting these stories.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to these horrible stories involving women,
Yes.
we kind of just overlook them or don't address them for the sins that took place that happened. You know, for this example, if you don't know the story of Dinah, go look it up. It was a horrible rape that took place.
Genesis 34.
In the Bible. I actually, just for this example, I took 5 examples that happened from Sarah just leading up to that. So in 3 generations, there was horrible stories from Sarah being given to Pharaoh in Genesis chapter 12, when in Lot offering his daughters to the people of Sodom and Gomorrah in Genesis chapter 19.
Okay.
You had Hagar, Sarah's handmaid, offered to Abraham and having a child, Ishmael, which has created a whole wealth of storm throughout the Middle East, even to this day that we're battling, right?
Yes.
You have, in Genesis 29, you have the switch between Leah and Rachel, where Laban says, well, why don't you take this daughter first, work for me another 7 years, and then I'll give you my other daughter.
Okay.
So you just have these stories, and then ultimately ending in Bilhah and Zilpah in chapter 30, where, you know, Rachel and Leah are just giving their handmaids, their servants away to sleep with their husband. I mean, I get that this was happening in a biblical stance,
Okay.
but what standard is this really setting for how men should treat women.
Okay.
And if I was just reading the Bible from front to back, I would be like, hey, I'm just gonna grab me a wife off the street. You know, I'm just gonna treat her like
Wow.
like
bit
Perez's
much.
dad did, right?
Well,
So there's all these
yes.
examples that, to me, and again, I go back to, I know we just got off the segment being a girl's dad, but I go back to, you know, what does it take to be a modern father? What example are you setting for your daughter in a modern times where I'm taking my daughter on dates where I'm showing her
Yes.
this is how a man is supposed to treat you?
Okay.
And if I'm reading the Bible from front to back, starting in Genesis before I even finish chapter 40, I don't have a positive impression of what I would consider a toxic male culture that is in the first book of the Bible.
That's
pretty
Coach
deep.
O. Coach O is coming out shooting with both guns. Castle King.
I mean,
What do you have to say about this topic? This is
I'm
really
in shock and awe. I get it. I understand. I do not think that there's toxic masculinity in the Bible. I think the Creator is always correct. He's always right. Everything that he does is for purpose. All right. And even, I know there's structures in there, but as you're talking about with Ishmael, teaches you how to stay committed to your wife and not have kids out of wedlock. There's other things that you can learn from this rather than just taking it as its literal sense on there. I don't think there's toxic masculinity. I think in Judges 4:4, where Deborah was a prophetess, she was a prophetess,
Okay.
the wife of Lapidus, so she was judging Israel. So there's positives in the Bible and people that women are in a positive aspect in the Bible. So it's not completely out there. There's different things that maybe we're not aware of or not spoken of. That's where you got to go to a Bible-based church so they can go through the Bible and you can review and have discussions through it. That's what Bible studies through it too. I do not think there's toxic masculinity. I think the Creator gives example that the man is the head of the household and there's structure so that there's structure to the household. And it says it.
I see.
It says Ephesians 5:22.
Yes.
Wives, submit you to your husband as he is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. So there's structure that he gives to it. The wife was created after man to be the man's helper. So it's I don't think there's a problem with order and everyone having their own place. It's just to say it doesn't mean that there's a dominance in there.
So Cascade, what I'm hearing you say is that it's not a matter of toxic masculinity. I'm hearing you saying that there is a designed order and there's divinity in it, and if you have the divine order, you have a more likely chance to have a success.
Correct.
In different relationships. Is that what you're saying?
I agree. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. And through there is things that happen in the Bible, but God uses those situations to explain how to handle things in your life and how to go through it and persevere with that and through God and the structure there. So there's more detail into those and how you're supposed to perceive those messages that happen. Is it going to say that things happen in the world? There are, but you always put God first and he's going to get you through it. Were there horrible things? There are. There are horrible things happening at this day and time now, but it doesn't mean that it's toxic masculinity out there.
What do you
in
say?
the Bible?
What do you have to say about that, Coach? You got to push back on that?
Well, I'm going to push back, and I'm also going to share with you guys a personal story, but something that happened to me that I experienced that I was oblivious to.
Okay.
And stay with me on this example. A few years ago, I was playing golf with a few friends of mine, and after we got done playing golf, they said, "Hey, let's go grab a bite to eat." So I'm like, "Sure, let's go grab a bite to eat." We were downtown or near downtown Orlando, and they said, "Hey, let's go to Twin Peaks." I was like, "What's Twin Peaks? I've never heard of that."
Oh, okay.
Okay. And so we go into Twin Peaks, and I get in, I'm like,
So
is it a gentleman's club?
What?
Is that where you're?
No, it's I call
it's a wings place, right?
It's a food place.
I'm not sure.
Scratch kitchen. I call them now restaurants, right? They're just they're disgusting. I mean, and I can say that now as an adult male, they're disgusting. I didn't think anything of it because as we were groomed as children, boys will be boys, right?
Okay.
And so I didn't think anything of it. When I get home, what did you do? I tell my significant other that I went to this place, and she was mortified.
Can you explain to our listeners what this place? What were you mortified about?
It's a restaurant where women are dressed very provocatively.
Were the men dressed provocatively, or was it the women?
No, it's just women. It's along the line of Hooters and Kerr's Wing House and those places. I guess will never be sponsored by them. I'm not sad by that. So the reality is that those types of places exist because of toxic masculinity.
Whoa,
and
really?
that's what we need to address in our.
So a man made her wear that?
No. So when I read through the Bible and I see stories where women are not given choice of what they have over their lives, when they are almost subservient to men, and it is not necessarily addressed as what it should have been. I felt personally in the word, or it's not currently addressed in the light that where it's lifting up women. So you're saying the Bible does not tell women how to dress? No.
That they should not be provocative, that they should wear head wraps, and to make sure. I just want to make sure, because it looks like you're saying that the Bible does not explain structure and how women should wear the clothes that the women should wear, and also men.
No,
because we can go through Deuteronomy if you want to go through that.
I want to be very clear on this. I feel the Bible does amazing examples of the relationships between men and women. It establishes a great order, a great balance that can be achieved for men and women. Okay. I've always used the standard of Proverbs 31, and I've been told that's almost an impossible standard to hold women up to, just as the Christ model is almost impossible for men to live up to. My reality is
not that impossible.
Is that we should be hypersensitive to the struggles that women are currently facing in our today's society, given the fact that there is a history throughout, if you believe the Bible is the beginning of time, there's been a history throughout the beginning of time that the women have been treated as less than equal throughout, and have had their voice oftentimes stifled without any chance. I do not know if Zilpah or Bilhah wanted to marry Israel. I do not know if Hagar wanted to take Abraham as a husband, but they were forced into those roles out of a subservient role. And that mindset, when I'm sitting there now I can see why my significant other was mortified by the fact that I'm invoking those same emotions where women is forced into a woman of servitude towards a man based on her provocative and what's pleasing to my eyes, which I should not have been looking at.
I can understand that, but if I may, I apologize. But the woman had the choice to put those clothes on and go to that job. There are many other jobs that she could have taken a job. Again, I'm not putting it on the woman. Does that entice a man? Yes. But again, this is where accountability has to take place, that you can make changes for it. That's not the only job that she could get, whether she thought for tips or not. There's other jobs that if she could have put her mind to and apply herself in a different aspect, she could have made money or in a different aspect. But that's something that she chose to wear and dress. Are there men that are pigs out there? Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you have to live that's where you take your Christ life and try to live as Christ and say, you know what, guys, this is not for me. Let's get out of here. I don't approve of this. And that's where the judgment of yourself and the situation you're in, and make the determination from there.
Yes.
I don't think it's a man that's saying, hey, you need to wear this or whatever. And if that's a job, they have a choice to not do it.
Jay Blades, what you got on this? I know you sound you looking at me like
he's looking at the chomps. He's looking at the chomps right now.
Well, I think both of you guys have made compelling arguments. Let me just start out by saying that the number one thing you'll find when you read the Bible is that it's about an imperfect world that's in need of a holy, righteous, and perfect God.
Facts.
Okay. So throughout the book of the Bible, and of course, we have different volumes and different people writing them. That's what you find. I'm going to actually say the Bible shows you a full spectrum. What was one of the first things that happened in Genesis chapter 2? God looked down, and if you choose to believe in the Bible, which we do, right, God looked down upon Adam and said, it's not good for Adam to be alone. I'm going to create him a helpmate. Now, the helpmate doesn't mean what most people think. It doesn't mean like,
doesn't mean a servant.
Hand me a screwdriver. Thank you for handing me the screwdriver. Eve was made with everything that Adam was lacking. She completed him.
Jerry Maguire?
The woman, she did. Jerry Maguire, for real.
They stole that from the Bible.
They stole it from the Bible. She literally completed him. And even to this day, women are actually have the capacity to actually live without a man, because she wasn't born with a desire towards Adam as opposed to being full of everything that he was missing. So that's an elevated position she has, where he was formed, but she was actually created.
Doesn't say the two become one?
Is right. So it's a play on words, but there's a difference between a form and a creation. Along with what you said about in Proverbs, yes, that is actually hard to find. But hey, no one knocks a woman when they say a good man is hard to find. It is possible and it's probable for a woman to attain those things. God also has, I believe, Castle Key mentioned earlier, standards for men. The biggest standard is possible. He told man to love his wife like Christ loved the church. And we kind of brushed it off, but that's pretty big. That means regardless of what our wives do, whatever flaw they have, we have to show love and sacrifice in faith, no matter what they do. And he just said that over. Hey, by the way, love them as you love yourself. There's other different dimensions. As a matter of fact, he told man to love woman approximately 2 times as many times he told the woman to honor her husband.
Correct.
Because at the end of the day, men feel more comfortable and they feel more appreciated when they're honored. We like to be loved now, don't get us wrong, but we like to be honored.
Yeah.
But he put the onus of the relationship, the onus of the household. You'll find this in Ephesians chapter 5 and Ephesians chapter 6. Everything from how to be a husband, how to be a child, how to be a father, how to be an employee,
How to love your
how to
wife.
be an employer, how to love your wife, everything that's sustaining to life. And he's giving man that instruction. Why? Because if the man is doing everything he's supposed to do, the outcome for the woman is supposed to be the same as the outcome for the church. You will flourish. You will be successful. You will thrive. So that's why I believe we were put in that leadership position, not to domineer and do all of the ugly things we know about, which happened with Dinah. She was just a little teenager, very young lady in a pagan city, and all the other women's in the Bible.
Which that was
but to
huge.
actually to avoid that and for men to be men. So a lot of times people think masculinity, and we look at the word masculinity, and I'm just going to finish with this. People think of negative behavior with men. That's not masculinity. Anyone that's raised by a masculine figure understand that you're supposed to respect women. You're supposed to respect adults. You're supposed to follow rules. You're supposed to be disciplined. Masculine is just really an attribute or characteristic of being a man, just like being feminine is a character or attribute of being a woman. Now, we have toxic behavior that cascades over men, women, and people who are not sure of their gender.
And to top of what you were just saying there as well, she was in a pagan city, which is just like in Easter that we were talking about before, that they practice sex and orgies. And God also says to get out of Babylon, to remove yourself from these places that you're not supposed to be in. So those are other lessons that you can go from there. And that could be something big as well. So it's not like if you're in a wrong city or a different city, you're supposed to come out of Babylon.
Oliver, you cooking. What you got to say, Oliver?
I mean, I don't want to say you're victim blaming, but it sounds a little bit like you're blaming Dina for
I didn't blame her. I'm saying the lesson learned there.
I mean, that's like saying, oh, well, you know, nothing good happens after midnight. Okay, yes, Dad, but I didn't tell him to put his hands on me. I mean, the reality is that, again, there is this, and I'm saying this because I was a young man. I've made some horrible mistakes throughout my life where I've been less than admirable. I'll just say that, right?
Right.
And in understanding and looking back on that, in my mind, I say, where did that come from? Okay. Where was that seed planted in my mind that thought it was okay to go to a strip club, that thought it was okay to, you know, holler at a girl at a bar or
Satan.
dance provocatively? Like, where were those things that were planted in me that the surrounding
question
brotherhood or surrounding men would say, hey, no, that's not what we do here.
Book of
The
James.
reality is, and I get it, we're in the world, right? We're not of this world. But the reality is that the overall general, these things that I've read have never, and again, I'm looking at this where I've never, in my 41 years of life, I've never really heard from a pulpit or from any kind of studies, these issues that I see and I know now with my brain, I've never seen these issues really addressed from an aspect that says this was wrong.
So if I was teaching Genesis chapter 34, that's where it kind of happened.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, what city was Jacob supposed to be in? He's supposed to move to Bethel.
Okay.
But he decided to go to where the heathen and move closer to the city. So the responsibility goes on Jacob. Let's for number one, what are some of the things he's supposed to do as a father? Well, number one, he's supposed to follow God. Number two, he's supposed to protect his daughter. I'm not victim blaming her. He had her in a position where something bad can happen to him, and he took I believe the reason why we had the outcome at the end, which after they got the circumcision, and just doing a fast forward through the chapter,
right.
While it was weak, his sons when they murdered those boys, is that he understood that he put his daughter in danger. and something really bad
But they made it
Hold on.
after that fact. I'm sorry, but after that fact, they made a deal, and he came back and thought it was a good idea. He's yeah, we've made a deal. They're going to all get circumcised, and now we can intermarry. Like just that conversation. Again, I go back to Lot. Just the conversation of, hey, don't take these guys. Take my virgin daughters. Oh. I mean, the disregard for women.
I don't want to get into theology.
Addressing that as men, and I don't want to say work backwards and forwards, but I think we need to raise up the stature of women in our society so that when we do see these places, I see people picketing Planned Parenthood. How come they're not walking around Hooters? How come they're not picketing these places
Let's stick to the
throughout
Bible.
The communities that exploit women?
Let's stick to the Bible.
And that's all I'm trying to say.
I don't want to get into theology, but what does Jacob mean? Jacob
it.
means supplanter, which means the deceitful one. And that's how he got his name until he started going by the name of Israel on a continuum, which I think the name was first mentioned in Genesis chapter 32. So we're not having theology, but the point of the Bible is there's a lot of people who were imperfect. Man has always been a covenant breaker.
You were born in sin.
So Castle King, I know there's some things you want to go ahead and say.
Between that, we were born in sin on there. So that's something that, I don't know if we have much time to wrap up on here, but we're born in sin on there.
We got to wrap it up, but we're going to finish this part because the next thing, we actually have to finish it, but what we want to do is thank you guys for listening to us. It was great talking about this topic. This will not be the last time. Thank you for spending your time with us. When you have some time, put comments down below.
We need to hear from you guys, whether you agree,
let us know if you with Coach Coach O, Castle King, what we doing here. Thank you for joining SPAR. It's been a privilege, and you guys have a great weekend.
Gracias, mi gente.